Hola, me llamo Gemma Duffy y bienvenidos a esta lección de Great Academy, donde vamos a practicar los roleplays para el examen oral de español. En esta lección vamos a practicar Roleplay 1, el alojamiento. What I'll do here is I will walk you through how I come up with the suggested answer that I've given you in the notes, and so you understand where it comes from, because it's important for you to understand it and be able to tweak it for the bits maybe that you find difficult to learn and practice it. Roleplay 1, el alojamiento. So the context is, vas de Erasmus a la Universidad de Extremadura, en Cáceres, para pasar ahí el próximo año académico. Necesitas alojamiento y llamas por teléfono a la universidad para ver si te ayudan a encontrar alojamiento. So you can read the context there for yourself in English. This is turn 1, and the examiner will say something along the lines of, hola, dígame. It might not be exactly that. So the first thing I'm going to suggest we do is highlight any verbs, highlight any time expressions, any indirect object pronouns. So this is a suggested answer, and I've highlighted those different elements of the sentence, as well as highlighting in red the prepositions and in purple the adjectives. I've put in bold where you need to notice whether nouns are masculine or feminine and how they agree with their adjectives and their articles. I'm going to read this just to help you with pronunciation for practice. Iré de Erasmus en la universidad el próximo año académico. No conozco a nadie en Cáceres. ¿Puedes darme consejos sobre alojamiento? Here I've highlighted the tenses that we've used for each verb as well. As you can see, we've used the futuro simple in the form of I, so yo, the person, yo iré. We've used the negative present simple for conozco, no conozco, and again, it's in yo, the I form. And the to form with the presente simple of puedes plus the infinitivo dar, puedes dar, and then the indirect object pronoun me. Here's some other possible phrases and vocabulary that you could substitute for what I've given you. So instead of iré de Erasmus, you could say haré Erasmus. Instead of el próximo año académico, you could say el año académico que viene. And instead of puedes darme consejos sobre el alojamiento, you could say puedes ayudarme or podrías ayudarme con el alojamiento. Alternatively, necesito información sobre el alojamiento. Turn 2. ¿En qué parte de la ciudad querrías vivir? So that's just possible what the examiner might say to you. So again, we're going to highlight the verbs and the time expressions and an indirect object pronoun. Here's a suggested answer. Preferiría vivir cerca de la universidad porque el año pasado viví en las afueras de Dublín y no me gustó nada. So again, watch your pronunciation. I've highlighted the verbs and their tenses. You can see here, as well as the person, whether it's I, you, he, she, or it, and so on, and the prepositions and adjectives. Here we've got alternatives that you could swap in if you aren't happy with the suggested answer. Preferiría vivir cerca de could be me gustaría vivir, no quiero vivir lejos de, or querría vivir. Again, it's not exactly prefer, but it's better than nothing. No me gustó nada could be replaced with no fue bien para mí, or no lo disfruté. So I didn't enjoy it, or it wasn't good for me. Número 3. So the examiner might say something like, ¿por qué? And you need to identify the verbs here. And I'm giving you a sample answer. Bueno, pasé demasiado tiempo viajando porque estaba muy lejos de todo. Si pudiera pasar ese tiempo estudiando, obtendría buenas notas. So there's your subjunctive in the imperfecto. And we can see all our different verbs here. So you can pause the video and look at this in your own time. But we'll keep going. It's just to help you understand where it's coming from. Some alternative phrases, estaba muy lejos de todo, could be substituted with no estaba cerca de nada. Or si pudiera pasar ese tiempo estudiando, obtendría buenas notas, could technically be substituted for prefiero pasar ese tiempo estudiando para sacar buenas notas. It's not exactly what they're asking, but it's quite similar and it avoids the subjunctive. However, I do recommend you use the subjunctive here because you can learn it in advance and it's a good way to show off that you know how to use it. Turn 4. Tienes razón, pero sabes que Cáceres es una ciudad muy pequeña y se puede andar desde las afueras a la Plaza Mayor en media hora. So again, highlight the different elements of the phrase, so verbs, and I've highlighted where you're going to use a comparative. And this is the sample answer. I would suggest, eso no está lejos y el clima es mucho mejor que en Irlanda. Así que consideraré todas las áreas, aunque preferiría vivir en el centro de la ciudad. Again, I've highlighted in bold el clima because it looks feminine, but it's actually masculine. Different prepositions and adjectives, as well as the verbs and their tenses. So pause the video and have a look at those closer if you want to understand which tense they're in. And here's some alternative phrases on vocabulary. So instead of no está lejos, you could say está bastante cerca. So again, it's not far, or that's quite close. El clima es mucho mejor que, you could say hace mejor tiempo que en Irlanda. Así que could be substituted with por eso. Consideraré, you could say tendré en cuenta. Todas las áreas could be substituted with todos los barrios. Notice though, todos and todas, you need to make sure it agrees with either las áreas or los barrios. Aunque can be substituted with sin embargo. Preferiría vivir can be substituted with me gustaría vivir, querría vivir, or you could say mi lugar preferido para vivir es, and then name the place. Again, I would go with the suggested answer given, but if you feel you find it difficult to remember certain parts of that phrase, there are alternatives there. Then the examiner will ask you a question relevant to the situation, and you won't know what it is in advance. You need to listen very, very carefully, especially to the verb that he or she uses. So I'm going to show you some possible questions. So these are just possible questions the examiner might ask. They may not ask any of these, but just listen for the verb and listen for the question word, so you know then how you need to answer the question. So cuánto tiempo tells us it's a time frame, how much time, how long. Llevas needs to change to llevo. So llevo 5 años, 5 years, estudiando español. Or you could put it in the present perfect progressive, which is basically the present perfect with a gerund or a present participle. So I have been studying. He estado estudiando español por. So there's your duration, por 5 años. ¿Qué carrera estudias? So again, estudias, and ¿qué carrera is what course, or like what career. Estudió letras is arts, or español if it's Spanish. You can put whatever you want in there. ¿Será tu primera vez en España? Will this be your first time in Spain? ¿No será mi primera vez en España? Or voy de vacaciones a la Costa del Sol cada verano. It won't be my first time in Spain. I go on holidays to the Costa del Sol every summer. As you can see, the English is given to you here. ¿Has vivido en España antes? Or será la primera vez que vivas en España? Now, that would be subjunctive. No he vivido en España antes, or será la primera vez que viva en España. So again, they both go together. You don't have to answer both, but at the same time, if you can expand your answer a little bit, that's good. So as you can see, the key here is to look at the verb and give them back what's in the question, but just change your verb so that it applies to you. And obviously then if there's a question word, what time or where and so on, that you're answering it. Gracias por ver esta lección de Grade Academy. Hasta la próxima. Happy learning.